Hello everyone. Today, I wanted to give my thoughts on and discuss a popular theory that Kris is dead, and to give my own personal thoughts and feelings on it. But firstly, obvious spoilers for Deltarune, so if you haven't played it or whatever, click off now. Okay, with that out of the way, on to the rest of the video. First theory, is Kris really dead? There is a popular theory that Kris might be in fact dead. To be honest, there is actually some evidence for this, that some other people have already pointed out already. Like for instance, Susie says that Kris was quote, looking like a zombie and was sleeping like a corpse after Kris wakes up in the classroom. And there are also a few other things of note. Like how Kris's skin color is blue in the dark world. A body being blue is often associated with something being dead or lifeless, especially if someone was frozen to death. There is also one thing I thought I'd mention that I don't believe anyone else has said before. Once you have already beaten the first two chapters, or first chapter, you can instead skip the opening part by sleeping in your bed and waking up in the dark world. I'm sure you know sleep and death are often very closely connected, with death often being described as a eternal sleep or slumber. Again, this is probably a bit of a stretch, and it's probably just supposed to be more of a video game mechanic and not meant to mean anything at all. But still, all of these subtle references to death could or could not be intentional. There is also the association with rotting things and worms. Rulescard in Spamton calls the player worms a lot. While Rulescard seems to be more directed to the group as a whole, Spamton seems to be directly talking to or about Kris. Worms and other insects are often connected to corpses or rotting corpses, which could be the reason why Spamton mentions worms and rotting a lot, insinuating, like Susie and Rulescard, that Kris might be dead in some way. Now, I feel like this theory has been talked about for a while, and while I gave my thoughts and potential evidence for it, to be honest, I don't entirely believe that it's right. Not that I think it's entirely impossible. I think it still could be, but I thought I'd give my take on it anyways. Since I had a few ideas on it, I don't think anyone else has stated yet. Okay, on to my next theory. Second theory. How much control do we, the player, really have? Okay, this is much less a full-on theory, more of a hypothesis, but how much control do we, the player, really have over Kris? I feel like most people think that we have near total control over Kris during the game, at least until they pull their heart out. But to me, that really doesn't seem to be true at all. Well, maybe a little bit. While it does seem that the player has control over what Kris does, but not how Kris does something. For example, when Kris says that video games are their life, Susie says that was the most monotone statement of her life. And there are also a few other examples that might come to mind. Like after defeating Spamton, we control what Kris says, but not how they say it. When you say no that you are not fine, Kris is apparently screaming. And apparently, when they say yes, they do so with tears in their eyes. So, I think we don't have as much control over Kris as other people think we do. So this begs the question, at least in my mind, what Kris really wants. Because, while we do have a fair amount of control, we don't have total control. like in the genocide or pacifist route, we see after defeating Spampton that Kris is fairly upset, or at least scared, or just in shock. Which is, kind of natural. But in the weird / Snowgrave route, where you're corrupting Noelle and killing Berdly, we really don't know how Kris is doing or feeling, unlike in the genocide / pacifist route. Kris, or we, don't really get a dialogue choice to pick at the end of the fight. We really don't know their feelings on what just occurred. In fact, they don't really seem to be fazed at all by what just happened. Now this makes me wonder about something. It's presumed up until now that it's mostly the player's actions, not Kris, doing this Snowgrave / weird route. And while I feel like this is mostly true, we really don't know how willing Kris is during this. Maybe they're not as opposed to this as some people think. Again, the only real reaction we get out of Kris is on the genocide / pacifist route, and they more or less seem neutral or emotionless about corrupting Noelle. The only possible reaction that Kris may or may not give is that we do get a lot of options to abort the route, so maybe they are against it, but then again, maybe not. I think I'm going to leave this here for now. This was kind of two theories mixed into one, and while I do think I'm right about the first part, about Kris having a lot more control than most people think or believe, I'm not sure I'm sold on the latter half. It was just kind of an idea that what if Kris was more willing in the Snowgrave route than most other people thought. The fact that we really don't get Kris's perspective, unlike in the regular routes, just made me wonder how compliant in this they really are. Again, it's just a tiny thing I noticed and theorized about, though I'm not completely sold on the idea myself. But I would like to hear your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Anyway, on to the next theory, which is the vessel theory. It seems that most people think that Kris and other few characters like Ralsei know of the existence of the player, which I do think is quite possible since there's a lot of evidence for it. But I have a small little theory to go along with that. What if instead of you, the player, directly controlling Kris, you're instead controlling the vessel, and the vessel is controlling Kris? Kind of like a puppeteer controlling a puppeteer. And here's my reasoning for it. It seems that Kris is aware of someone or something controlling them, and it is presumed that they know of us, the player's existence. But what if it isn't us directly controlling Kris? Maybe during Deltarune, we are actually the vessel, and through the vessel, we can control Kris. Now, why would that matter? That the vessel is the one controlling Kris during Deltarune. In the large scheme of things, maybe it doesn't really matter too much, but I believe this would explain a few things. Mainly why our town is named after the vessel. Maybe the vessel wasn't fully discarded, like whoever this is claimed. And if we really are the vessel that the player is controlling, it would make sense, since it seems it doesn't just hold one soul, it houses all our teammates' souls. It would be a literal vessel for all of them, and while Kris and Ralsei might know of the vessel's existence, they technically might not know of our existence, like we presumed. Again, if this is true, it would be kind of like puppeteering a puppet master. The vessel not only controls Kris's actions, but the whole party's actions. And of course, we are the ones controlling the vessel. That would be the reason why the town is named after the vessel, and the fact that even if Kris is no longer there, they can house other people's souls, like during Susie's fight with Lancer. Now again, I think in the large scheme of things, I don't think it matters too much if it's us directly controlling Kris, or if it's just through the vessel that we the player therefore control Kris, but it would explain a few oddities I stated above. And if this is true, then maybe all the characters like Railside, Kris, Devils, and Spampton don't know of us the player's existence, or only know of the vessel controlling Kris. I think this could be possible, but then again, who knows? Again, I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. This is most of my theories for today, but I would like to mention one more thing I noticed that apparently I just forgot to mention in my last video. But, you know how Gaster speaks in all caps Windings? Well, that is the main reason why most people believe that this is Gaster speaking during the beginning of the game. But there are actually a few other characters that speak in all caps, and that's the two secret bosses, Devil and Spampton, but only during battle. When just having a normal conversation with them out of battle, they do both caps and no caps, but the only ones to exclusively do it in battle is both Devil and Spampton. Now, this seems to be a pattern that all of the corrupt characters speak in all caps during battle. Granted, it's not during a battle, but the only other character to speak in all caps is whoever this is. And if caps is a sign of someone being corrupted, then this entity may be 1, the entity is Gaster, or 2, it could be a character that we haven't seen yet that's been corrupted. So yeah, that's really all my theories for today. I'm sure you know this, but I'm using my actual voice for this video instead of TTS. I was wondering if you guys like it. Well, I mean, if you prefer it over TTS. I personally really don't like the sound of my own voice too much. And to be honest, I could see how some people could find it annoying. But then again, I know some people really don't like the TTS voices, which I also get. So either way, I don't really care, but I was wondering what you guys think. Do you want me to keep my normal voice or the TTS, or even if you really care? Tell me down below in the comments, or I might make a poll or something, I don't know. Oh, and one more thing before I go. This video is likely going up right before Undertale's anniversary, and my next video will likely be my thoughts discussing the event, whatever it is that they have planned, or whatever they're doing for it. But I have a question for all of you. Would you like to see a playthrough of the first 2 chapters of Deltarune? I've already played it in my free time, so it wouldn't exactly be a fresh experience for me, but I was wondering if you guys would like to see it. I likely put up a poll in the community tab before this video went up, so you can vote there whether you would like to see it. I'm already planning to do the full game when it fully comes out, but I would be down to play the first 2 chapters if all of you would want to see it. So yeah, that's it for this video. My next video will likely be discussing Undertale's anniversary, or playing through the first 2 chapters of Deltarune, if you guys want to see it. So yeah, remember to vote in the community tab if you want to see it, and I guess like and sub if you guys don't want to miss my next video. So yeah, that's all for today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.